Big U had Nipsey Hussle killed. Everybody know that.
The night Jabari Baby Yui Henley was killed, South Central didn't go quiet. It didn't mourn. It didn't pause. It erupted. But not in grief. Not in sorrow. No, this time it erupted in laughter.
Man, we just had some super sad news coming out of Los Angeles. It was just reported yesterday that Big U's son, Baby Yui, unfortunately lost his life in the streets of Los Angeles on the night of Halloween.
I thought Big U gave wrong information. 30 minutes later, the homies blowing me up like they just killed Nipsey.
Because for the streets that still carry Nipsey Hussle's name like a banner, this wasn't just a tragedy. This was payback. And Nipsey's affiliates weren't subtle about it. They mocked Big U publicly, loudly, and without hesitation. For them, the war never ended. Nipsey's murder never stopped echoing. And now, after years of silence, something came full circle. And it hit Big U right in the heart. Because on Halloween night, his son, his blood was gunned down in nearly the exact same way Nipsey died. Same city, same setup, same sense of betrayal. But this time, nobody was mourning out loud. They were celebrating. And Big U? He was locked in a federal cell with no power, no money, and no way to stop it. Let's take it back. October 31st, 2025. Jabari Henley, 34 years old, a warehouse supervisor, a father, a man trying to keep himself out of the life his father built, walked into the wrong intersection. Fig and 69th Street. That's not just any corner in South LA, that's rolling 60s territory. The very gang Big U once led with an iron fist. That turf used to mean safety, protection, legacy. But for Baby Yui, it meant a setup. He was shot down 7 bullets, chest, arm, thigh, stomach, a hit job, not a drive-by, not random. The shooter pulled up in a dark sedan, waited, opened fire, then vanished. And by the time LAPD arrived, Jabari was bleeding out on the pavement. CPR failed, so did adrenaline shots. The coroner ruled him dead at the scene. Hemorrhagic shock, torn artery, the kind of wound nobody survives. And the moment scanners reported a man had died outside Fig and 69, the internet lit up. Not with prayers. Not with peace, with hashtags. Nipsey Karma starts trending. Within 90 minutes, Nipsey Karma was trending on X, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts. Some posts were brutal, others were cold, but all had the same message. That's what happens when you take Nip. Memes popped up showing Nipsey's face photoshopped into the sky like an angel looking down. Others edited old interviews of Big U, replacing his voice with clown music. Laughing emojis flooded comment sections. Nipsey's lyrics about betrayal were reposted on loop, with one line standing out. Circle got smaller, everybody can't go. People said it wasn't Jabari's fault, but they still weren't sorry. Because Jabari wasn't just any man, he was Big U's son, and to the streets, Big U still had blood on his hands. But the real drama wasn't online. It happened behind bars. Big U, already locked in the Metropolitan Detention Center, got the news from a contraband phone call just past 1:30 a.m. His co-defendant, Loose Cannon, told him what happened. Your son's gone. And that's when Big U broke. The man who used to order extortions, who ran the streets with threats and violence, reports say he collapsed on the floor, whispering, "Not my boy, not like this." Some inmates claim he didn't talk for hours. But Nipsey's affiliates inside that same prison, they weren't mourning. They approached Big U directly. One walked up and said, "Now you know how his mama felt." That's when everything exploded. Shouting, spitting, threats. One tried to swing before guards pulled them apart. It wasn't just beef anymore. It was vengeance. And everyone saw it. To understand why this moment shook the prison and the streets, you have to rewind. Nipsey Hussle wasn't just another rapper from LA. He was the figure who rose above the streets, who used the game to escape it, who built businesses, empowered youth, bought real estate, and gave back. And at one point, he was under Big U's wing. Back in 2007, Big U signed Nipsey to a contract. He managed his career, gave him housing, provided muscle, but it wasn't charity. That contract reportedly gave Big U control over 10 to 25% of Nipsey's publishing, including rights to All Money In and The Marathon. At first, things looked smooth. But as Nipsey grew, so did his independence. By 2017, he wanted out. He had money now, influence, his own label, his own brand, and that didn't sit right with Big U, because in gang culture, nobody's supposed to be bigger than the set, bigger than the OGs. And Nipsey, he wasn't just getting big, he was eclipsing everyone. Then came the breaking point. Late 2018, a parking lot in Crenshaw, Nipsey records a diss track. He calls out Big U directly, calling him a scrapper, questioning his realness. Big U didn't take it lightly. He shows up, face to face with Nipsey and his brother, Black Sam. Words turned to threats, threats turned to violence, and reports say it ended with Big U assaulting them and Black Sam firing a gun in self-defense. Nobody got hit, but LAPD arrested Black Sam on the spot, and the relationship between Big U and Nipsey, over. officially and permanently. Even though Big U tried to play nice in later interviews, the damage was done. Nipsey was moving on. He refused to re-sign. And right after that confrontation, Nipsey was dead. Here's where things get cold. Loose Cannon, Big U's co-defendant, gave an interview that went viral, claiming that 30 minutes before Nipsey's death, Big U FaceTimed him and said Nipsey just got killed. But when Cannon hung up and called Nipsey directly, Nipsey answered. He was alive, still walking, still breathing. And that 30-minute gap, that's what started the whispers. Because if Big U said Nip was dead before it happened, how did he know? Fast forward to 2025. The feds bring down a massive RICO indictment on Big U, 43 charges. Extortion, bank fraud, human trafficking, murder for hire. They don't directly charge him for Nipsey's death, but the wiretaps tell a story. They caught him bragging about being bigger than Nipsey, saying, "I'll discipline anyone who steps to me." And multiple witnesses say his so-called protection was just extortion with extra steps. Even former artists say they paid monthly just to stay safe. And if they stopped, things got violent. So when Baby Yui was shot down in the middle of South LA on the very turf his father used to rule, the message was loud and clear. This wasn't random. This was reckoning. A statement from the streets that no one escapes forever. Not even Big U. And now with his son gone, his money frozen, his empire crumbling, and his enemies laughing, Big U isn't feared. He's finished. And Nipsey? Still loved, still remembered, still rising. Big U once walked through South Central like a king. He was untouchable, respected, feared, a man who could squash beef with a phone call or ignite war with a glance. The streets bowed to him, labels listened to him, politicians smiled in his face. But that was then. Today, he's just another inmate sitting behind steel bars while the city turns its back. And now, after the murder of his own son, there's no mercy left for him. Not in the courts, not in the streets, not in the hearts of the people. Because for many, Big U's story isn't a tragedy. It's a cautionary tale, a real-time collapse of a man who tried to play God and got buried by the same game he once ruled. And Nipsey's name? It's on every headline again. Because the people didn't forget. The moment Baby Yui's death hit the news, the music industry started making calls, quiet calls, strategic calls, calls that ended contracts and canceled meetings. Big U's consulting firm, blacklisted. His security services, pulled. And those deals he was brokering for up-and-coming artists, gone. One West Coast label exec said it bluntly, "We can't be associated with a man the streets just sentenced," because that's what this was. It wasn't just a killing, it was a public verdict. And the fallout didn't stop with deals. A scheduled documentary about LA gang politics featuring Big U as a central figure was pulled from post-production. Streaming platforms backed out. Sponsors disappeared. Nobody wanted their name next to his anymore. As Big U's name burned, Nipsey's only got brighter. Murals that had faded were repainted overnight. Candlelight vigils popped up, not for Jabari, but for Nipsey. Artists who once stayed silent finally spoke out. One of Nip's childhood friends posted, "He tried to control Nip. He tried to silence him, but you can't bury a real one. And now the truth is speaking loud." Another went further. Big U didn't just lose his son. He lost every last drop of respect he had left. And in LA, that's everything. Inside the prison system, the walls are closing in on Big U, and they're not just made of concrete. They're made of testimony. Loose Cannon, one of Big U's longtime partners in crime, is now reportedly cooperating with investigators. And according to leaked court docs, he's giving them everything. Wire transfers, meeting locations, names, and worse, he's allegedly tying several violent crimes, including intimidation hits on producers and rivals, directly to Big U's orders. He even claims that Big U bragged about having Nipsey checked in the months before his death. Now, whether that meant physical confrontation, threats, or worse is unclear, but federal agents are taking it seriously. And the fact that this information is coming out right after Baby Yui's death, the timing is too sharp to ignore. Multiple inmates have confirmed that Big U is no longer safe behind bars. He's in protective custody, removed from general population after multiple confrontations and one suspected attack where he was allegedly cut across the arm with a sharpened toothbrush. The man who once walked prison yards with confidence now eats alone, showers under guard, sleeps with one eye open. And according to insiders, he hasn't had a single family visitor since November 1st, the day after his son died. Some say his closest allies blame him. Others just don't want to be seen near a sinking ship. And when federal agents recently served Big U with a new subpoena for financial records, his response was chilling. He didn't yell. He didn't resist. He just sat back and said, "They took everything else. What's left to take?" You see, this isn't just about crime. This is about betrayal. Because for years, Big U wore two masks. To the outside world, he was the reformed OG doing community work, helping youth, partnering with nonprofits. He gave speeches, shook hands, even sat on panels about violence prevention. But behind the curtain, he was still pulling strings, still running extortion rings, still making threats, still demanding cuts from artists who didn't want to play by his rules. And Nipsey, he was the first to break the cycle. He didn't need Big U's handouts. He built his own empire, bought his own block, protected his people without owing anyone. And when he refused to renew that management deal, Big U saw it as betrayal. That's what made the diss track so powerful. It wasn't just bars. It was a message: you don't own me. And in a world where control is everything, Nipsey broke the chains. That's why his murder hurt so deep. That's why the theories never stopped. And that's why, when Big U lost his son, the city didn't cry. It nodded. Old school figures who once stood beside Big U are now speaking out. One, who asked not to be named, said this: "You can't do dirt forever and expect clean endings. You take someone real like Nipsey, someone the hood loved, you better believe the hood gon' remember." Another said, "Big U played both sides too long, streets and suits, and when Nipsey died, that mask slipped." Because even though the courts never officially linked Big U to Nip's death, the streets made up their minds. And now, they've made their move. In 2020, Big U had access to athletes, artists, lawmakers. People called him to keep the peace, to solve problems, to handle issues behind the scenes. But now, he can't even protect his own blood. Jabari's murder sent a ripple across South LA, not just because of the brutality, but because it showed Big U is no longer feared. The shooter wasn't afraid of consequences. The city wasn't afraid of retaliation. And the response online? Mockery, memes, edits of Big U's face photoshopped into dollar bills being set on fire. He became the punchline, the example, the warning. At the heart of this story is something deeper than revenge. It's loyalty. The kind Nipsey built, the kind Big U tried to control. Nipsey gave the streets hope, a new model, a new code. He wasn't perfect, but he was honest. He stood on his own, and when the machine tried to pull him back in, he resisted. That's why his name still echoes. Why the marathon continues isn't just a phrase, it's a standard. And now that standard is shining brighter than ever because the man who tried to kill the movement just lost everything. And the message is simple. You can't bury the truth. You can't outrun your sins. And you damn sure can't silence the streets forever. By now the message is clear. Big U is finished. And the streets? They've made their decision. Because after years of controlling artists, intimidating rivals, and manipulating the game, the empire Big U built isn't feared anymore. It's forgotten. What started as whispers after Nipsey Hussle's death has turned into a full-volume chant. And now, with Jabari Baby Yui Henley gone, his only son, the only thing Big U ever truly protected, there's no one left to shield him. He's not the OG anymore. He's not the man the hood bows to. He's just a name people use when they talk about what happens when you go too far. The federal case against Eugene Big U Henley Jr. isn't small. It's not simple. It's surgical. Feds hit him with 43 charges: extortion, fraud, human trafficking, tax evasion, robbery, and the one that caught the streets off guard, murder for hire linked to the 2021 death of aspiring rapper Rayan Williams in Las Vegas. Court documents detail everything: payment plans, encrypted text messages, GPS pings, wiretaps. It's all there, laid out, labeled, time. There's no escape. This wasn't some sloppy state case thrown together. This was years in the making. Every phone tapped, every dollar traced, every ally flipped. Even his closest people, Loose Cannon, Rico Black, and another unnamed co-defendant are either testifying or cutting deals. And according to a leaked memo, Big U tried to call in favors from a handful of past city officials. None answered. Not one. Because once Baby Yui died, even the corrupt knew to keep their hands off this one. Big U used to sit at tables with billionaires. He helped broker business between rap labels and tech companies. He was tapped by NFL players for culture protection. He had power in the streets and in the suites. But it was all built on a lie. His reformed OG image was a costume. Behind the scenes, he was extorting artists for 10-20% of their touring revenue, demanding street tax just to keep performing in certain cities, threatening promoters and executives alike. And the receipts are now in court. Emails, wire transfers, audio recordings, all proving what people like Nipsey had been trying to warn the world about. When Nipsey split from Big U in 2018, the writing was already on the wall. He saw the strings. He knew what was coming. That's why he left. That's why he dissed Big U. That's why he told his inner circle never to sign deals they didn't control. He was cutting ties. He was breaking the chain. And that chain, it was wrapped around every young rapper coming out of LA. But when Nipsey broke it, the whole city watched. It gave people courage. It gave them vision. And for Big U, it gave him rage. Because for a man like that, nothing hurts more than being replaced by someone the streets love more than you. This wasn't just a murder. This was a message. Jabari wasn't in the game. He wasn't pushing weight. He wasn't throwing gang signs or wearing colors. He had a regular job, a daughter, a future. But he had one thing the streets couldn't forgive. His father's name. That was enough. Enough to make him a target. Enough to make his death feel like divine justice to those still mourning Nipsey. And that's what makes this hit different. Because the cycle finally caught up. Big U spent decades creating pain in the streets. Now the streets delivered it back in the most personal, irreversible way. Inside NDC Los Angeles, guards are saying Big U isn't speaking anymore. He used to talk loud, give orders, joke around, pretend like things were under control. But after Halloween, he's been silent. One guard reported he hasn't made a single phone call in over a week. He spends most of the day staring at the wall, reading court documents or writing letters that never get sent. And every time he hears Nipsey's name on TV, he turns away. Because the one man he wanted forgotten is now being honored on murals, quoted in songs, praised on news specials, while Big U, he's just inmate SO 4278 DC, stripped of power, surrounded by ghosts. Usually when a man like Big U falls, you get two reactions, relief or respect. But this time, people feel nothing. There's no empathy. There's no sadness. Even his past enemies, people who once feared him, are shrugging their shoulders. Because in their eyes, this wasn't just a fall, it was earned. You can terrorize communities for years, but you don't get to play victim when karma comes knocking. You don't get sympathy when the house you built out of broken lives finally collapses. And right now, Big U is buried under the rubble. Nipsey Hussle's name has outlived the hate. His message has grown bigger than any scandal. And while his death was a tragedy, his life became a blueprint. Own your masters. Buy back the block. Build without selling your soul. And most importantly, walk away from the people trying to control you. Big U tried to leash Nipsey, but Nipsey ran a marathon. And now, the finish line is here. Jabari Henley is gone. So is the empire Big U built. The man who once ruled South Central with fear now walks with his head down, his legacy in ashes, his name used as a warning. Meanwhile, Nipsey's name lives on in murals, foundations, community centers, scholarships, and in the hearts of every kid who sees his face and thinks, I can do more than survive, I can lead. Big U thought he could erase that legacy, but the streets wrote it in stone. He thought he could control the next generation, but Nipsey gave them freedom. He thought he was untouchable, but the streets touched him back in the harshest way possible. Now all that's left is silence. No more power, no more fear, no more legacy. Just a man sitting in a cage, remembering the son he lost, the truth he buried, and the truth that buried him. Because the streets may not bring justice in court, but they never forget. And they always collect.